It all began long before the lights, the fame, and the millions of fans screaming his name. Dylan Wang, known for his captivating charm and unforgettable roles, wasn't always the confident star the world sees today. Behind those calm eyes lies a childhood that carried both pain and power, the kind that molds a boy into a man the world will one day remember. But what no one knew until now is just how deep that story goes, and how many secrets have been kept buried for years. Dylan's early life was marked by a quiet kind of chaos. His parents worked tirelessly, but the walls of their home often echoed with uncertainty. He wasn't born into luxury or privilege. His world was small, a tiny neighborhood where dreams felt impossible, and every day was about survival. Yet, even as a child, there was something about him, an intensity in his silence, a fire in his eyes that spoke of destiny. One of his closest childhood friends once revealed that Dylan wasn't the loudest or the most popular, but he had this strange calmness about him. When others gave up, he didn't. When things got hard, he disappeared into his own world, sketching, writing, dreaming. There was something about the way he carried hope, as if he knew that the pain he was living through was only temporary. But the truth no one ever dared to talk about was the day that changed everything. It was during one rainy evening when Dylan was around 11. His father came home early, silent and withdrawn. Something had gone wrong, something big. The family was about to lose everything. That night, Dylan overheard a conversation that would haunt him for years. His father, with a trembling voice, said, "We may not have anything left tomorrow." That sentence became the spark. The next morning, Dylan didn't cry or panic. Instead, he made a quiet promise to himself. If the world wouldn't hand him a dream, he'd build one with his bare hands. That was the moment a boy turned into a fighter. In school, Dylan was far from the perfect student. He was curious, restless, always chasing something beyond the classroom walls. Teachers misunderstood him, friends doubted him, and even relatives whispered that he'd never make it far. But those whispers became his fuel. Every rejection, every sneer, every moment of silence pushed him closer to the edge of his destiny. One of his teachers later admitted that Dylan had this unique aura, the kind that made you look twice. There was an invisible strength behind his quiet demeanor. Whenever he failed, he didn't stay down for long. He'd smile faintly, shake the dust off, and start again. That resilience became the very foundation of the man he would one day become. Years later, when he first stepped into the world of entertainment, no one believed he could do it. Casting directors dismissed him. He was told his face was too different, his presence too quiet, his personality not loud enough for stardom. But Dylan didn't argue. He watched, he learned, and then he transformed. There's a story from his early audition days, a story that still sends chills down the spine of those who witnessed it. He was standing in front of a panel, nervous but steady. They gave him a scene to perform, a moment of heartbreak and loss. Instead of forcing emotion, Dylan closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and drew from the shadows of his childhood. When he finally opened his mouth, silence filled the room. His performance wasn't just acting, it was truth, raw and unfiltered. He didn't just play the part. He lived it. Afterward, one of the judges reportedly said, "That boy doesn't act. He remembers." That was the beginning of his rise. But as his fame grew, the ghosts of his past didn't vanish. There were nights when Dylan would sit alone in his apartment, the city lights flickering through the window, and think about that rainy night years ago. About the boy who promised himself that no matter what, he'd make it. And though the world now saw him as untouchable, inside he was still that same boy, still fighting, still dreaming, still holding on to the fire that started it all. Behind the smiles and the laughter, there were sacrifices. Friends lost along the way. Relationships that never had a chance to bloom because his focus was unbreakable. And even when success came knocking, Dylan faced a silent burden, the fear of losing it all again, just like his family almost did. The most haunting part of his story, though, was recently revealed by someone close to him. When asked what motivates him the most, Dylan quietly said, "I just don't ever want to see that look on my father's face again." That sentence alone says everything. It's the kind of truth that reveals who he really is, not a man chasing fame, but a son chasing peace. And now, with every role he takes, every emotion he portrays, and every tear that falls on screen, it's not just acting. It's his life retold, piece by piece. Every success he achieves isn't just for him, but for the family that once thought their world was falling apart. Fans often wonder how he manages to connect so deeply with his roles. The truth is simple, because he's lived through emotions most people only pretend to understand. His strength isn't in his fame. It's in his ability to turn pain into purpose. Today, Dylan Wang stands as one of the most admired figures in the industry. But beneath the fame, there's still a piece of that young boy who refused to give up, who learned to turn storms into stepping stones, and who found beauty in the struggle. The untold story of his childhood isn't just about hardship. It's about transformation. About how even the smallest spark, when fueled by resilience, can light up the entire sky. Dylan Wang's journey is a reminder that greatness isn't born in comfort, it's forged in the quiet moments of pain, in the battles fought when no one's watching, and in the promises we make to ourselves when the world seems to crumble. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary people come from the most ordinary beginnings. And Dylan Wang, with his unshakable spirit and heart full of fire, is living proof of that truth. For years, Dylan Wang has been the face of charm, talent, and mystery, but behind the dazzling smiles and red carpet appearances, there were whispers of a side of him that no one ever got to see. Tonight, for the very first time, his closest friends have stepped forward to tell the story no one else dared to share. What they revealed has left fans shocked, hearts aching, and social media exploding like never before. It started with a quiet night at a secluded villa in the outskirts of Shanghai. Dylan's childhood friend, Li Wei, was the first to speak, his voice trembling as he recounted the moments they shared that few even knew existed. Dylan was never just the boy everyone saw on TV, Li Wei said. He carried a weight no one could ever imagine. Every smile, every joke, it was his way of keeping the world at a safe distance. Fans have always admired Dylan for his effortless charisma, but what Li Wei revealed was that Dylan's life had been a constant battle with expectations, loneliness, and secrets too heavy to carry alone. He described nights when Dylan would disappear without explanation, leaving his friends frantic with worry, only to reappear hours later with his eyes hollow, as if he had lived through something no one could understand. Another friend, Chen Rong, shared an incident from a filming set 2 years ago that had remained hidden until now. He walked onto set that day, but it was like he wasn't there. His gaze was empty, and I knew he had something on his mind. Later, I found out he had received news from someone he trusted deeply, something that shook him to his core. Chen's voice broke as he spoke, and even the crew who had heard the story said they could still feel the chill of that day. The story takes an even darker turn when Dylan's best childhood friend, Mei Ling, revealed the emotional toll his early life had taken on him. She explained how he grew up in a home where love was often conditional, where achievements mattered more than feelings, and where every mistake left a mark on his soul. He had this habit of retreating into himself, she confessed, and we all thought he was just being mysterious, but it was more than that. He was trying to survive, to protect his heart, and to protect us from seeing him break. What makes these revelations even more astonishing is the story of the night Dylan made a decision that could have changed his entire career. His friendly way recounted how Dylan had once considered stepping away from fame altogether, believing that the pressure of being perfect for everyone else would consume him. "We didn't know what to do," Li Wei said, shaking his head. "We begged him to stay, but he looked at us with this quiet strength and said he needed to find himself first." Fans watching this video have commented that the vulnerability in Dylan's story is almost unbearable to witness, and that it only makes him even more human and relatable. But amidst the struggles and shadows, there were moments of triumph and resilience that even his closest friends found breathtaking. Chen Rong described a day when Dylan, after weeks of emotional turmoil, came into a studio and poured his heart into a scene so raw and real that the entire cast was speechless. "You could see him shedding the layers he had built to survive," Chen said. For a moment, he was just a boy with dreams, fears, and the courage to face them all. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came from Mei Ling, who disclosed an incident from just last year that no one expected. Dylan, she said, had saved a friend from a devastating situation, acting with a bravery that defied his quiet and often reserved demeanor. He didn't tell anyone, not even us, for weeks, Mei Ling said. He just did what he knew was right, and then he disappeared into his world again. That's who Dylan is, a man of action, a man of heart, even when the world doesn't see it. As the night wore on, fans were left reeling from the depth of Dylan Wang's untold story. It was no longer just about fame, looks, or charm. It was about the resilience of a young man who had endured more than anyone imagined, who had hidden his pain behind smiles and laughter, and who had found strength in friendship, love, and the quiet determination to never give up. The revelations didn't just end there. Li Wei hinted at secrets that are still too delicate to share publicly, teasing fans with the promise that there are more layers to Dylan's life than anyone could comprehend. He has a story that the world isn't ready for yet, Li Wei whispered. And when the time comes, you'll see him like never before. By the time the video ended, social media was in flames. Fans were posting heartfelt messages, sharing stories of how Dylan's hidden struggles mirrored their own, and expressing admiration for his courage and authenticity. The emotional impact was undeniable. For once, the world wasn't looking at Dylan Wang the celebrity, they were looking at Dylan Wang the person, the friend, and the human being who had survived it all with dignity and heart. What makes this revelation so powerful is not just the secrecy or the drama, it's the relatability. We all hide parts of ourselves, parts that the world doesn't get to see, and Dylan Wang's story reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength. And as fans continue to digest the details of these untold secrets, one thing is certain, Dylan Wang's legacy is no longer just about fame. It's about courage, resilience, and the quiet battles that make someone truly unforgettable. Every comment, every share, every view now tells a larger story. The world finally understands a part of Dylan that was always hidden, and that understanding has made him not just a star, but a symbol of humanity in its purest, most intense form. And while some secrets remain untold, the night's revelations have already left a permanent mark on the hearts of those who watched, ensuring that Dylan Wang's journey will be remembered, celebrated, and cherished for years to come.